Hello, and welcome to Let's Spend the Night Together, Masterworks. The following segment has been selected for your enjoyment. Enjoy.
Craig.
Ahoy, hoy.
In fiction and folklore, a doppelganger is a look-alike, a double of a living person, sometimes portrayed as a paranormal phenom. It is usually seen as a
Harbor Coat? The R.E.M. song?
harbinger of bad luck. In other traditions, the stories, they even recognize one's double-gooer as an evil twin. Okay, the doppelganger is often used for more general sense to describe any person who physically or by behavior represents another person.
This is kind of spooky. I'm getting the chills over here.
Why am I talking about a doppelganger, Craig?
Yeah.
What do you know about Chris Gaines, Craig?
I know that he's... Where do I start? Legend?
Yeah.
Like an unbelievable talent.
A lot of
prodigy,
people
I guess,
out there in radio world might
giant cock.
be thinking to
great
themselves, who are these boys?
Chris
Who are
Gaines.
these beautiful boys from Sacramento talking about? Chris Haynes.
Beautiful boys from Sacramento. A lot of people call us that.
Chris Gaines.
Chris Gaines. Chris Angel?
Chris Gaines came out.
He's the mind freak, the magician. Oh, that's Chris Angel.
I mean, pretty much what happened is Garth Brooks sold more records, millions of records in the 90s than more than Nirvana, more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And what
He's got some dope songs.
What do you do when you've done it all?
You
lose your mind.
Yes, I think so.
You grow a soul patch.
You morph.
You dye your hair black.
You become the aforementioned doppelganger. And now, glad I didn't know.
I just don't understand. I
remember this one. My sister bumping this one at that volume up to.
What do you do to this kind of song? This is like something.
Rock out.
Do your laundry or?
I hit a punching bag to it.
To this?
And screamed into pillows.
It seems very. It seems very mellow.
Yeah, it is for some people.
Not you though.
No.
Interesting.
This makes me want to scream. No, I'm just
primal scream.
Primal scream. No, yeah, he got insanely big, and there was nothing bigger you could do. What is it? Chris Bridges.
Chris Gaines.
Chris Gaines. That's it.
Well, it's like the thing I always say with comedians. You're only on top. Like, your shelf life is very short. We just saw Kevin Hart's last stand-up. What's next?
Yeah.
That's how I felt after watching.
He has to become Kevin Hart, Chris Gaines. Kevin Gaines. That's his only next move, is Gaines.
Years ago, I read Steve Martin's biography, and he's talking about doing stand-up comedy because he was the biggest stand-up comedian in his time. And he said when he started to see
Father of the Bride.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking.
He said when he started to see like empty seats in the back.
Oh yeah.
He knew that it was starting to come down.
Oh.
So he quit when he was on top.
Oh wow.
But
wow.
That's crazy. It's just
and then he came back out with a goatee and was called Steve Gaines. Wow. Let's
get to it.
And then Chris Gaines died in a horrible plane crash. And Garth Brooks resurfaced.
Was at the wheel?
Jesus was at the wheel, and Garth Brooks took over.
For all his talent and genius, Garth Brooks has made some questionable career decisions.
Like what?
From trying to be a baseball player to launching his own digital platform, Ghost Tunes.
Oh.
Instead of joining iTunes.
Oh,
Brooks is no stranger to head scratching. But his most egregious foray,
Trisha Yearwood?
without a doubt, was his alter ego, Chris Gaines. 17 years ago,
that's brilliant.
September 1999, Brooks released the album Garth Brooks.
The world got a little worse that day.
Garth Brooks, in the life of Chris Gaines. It confused the hell out of people. Garth Brooks, in the life of Chris Gaines.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
For starters, the cover of his album just said Chris Gaines' greatest hits. You might remember it. It's
Really?
the one
That's
with
what it
brooding,
said?
soul-patched, bangs-covered eyes, shadow-faced, resembling Brooks. It was Brooks. The sound, too, confused fans. It was pegged as rock and roll, his alter ego, but instead landed much closer to the pop realm.
Yeah,
In fact, the album hit #2 on Billboard's pop chart and even gave him his one and only charting single, Lost in You. But did you know Chris Gaines' experiment was a bigger, more elaborate plan? The elaborate backstory. Now we're going to give you people the skinny, not going to hear it anywhere else.
Greatest hits?
Yeah.
That's so fucking weird. That explains. I've always
pretentious
wondered
and
what was up with that. I thought he just their dumbass record label released somehow a greatest hits, even though he only had 1 or 2 albums. So that was the whole thing. Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
Chris Gaines was actually a movie character. I'm not making this up.
Oh my god, no
Chris
way.
Gaines was actually trying not to get the douche chills.
Is this the
wall? when I
he has pink.
Describe the next 2 paragraphs.
Which one's pink?
He was a movie character, and as far as alter egos go, Chris Gaines had by far the most complex backstory out there.
No shit.
The entire thing was created for a planned thriller film called The Lamb, that featured Chris Gaines, the character. So the Greatest Hits album was about creating the film's universe with an elaborate story or character backstory. The story is, in all honesty, pretty absurd. Chris Gaines and his rebellious friend, Tommy, started a rock band in 1985 LA during their high school years. The band called Crush. Played local clubs until... You don't like Crush?
Boo.
Until...
Is their drummer Twist?
They played local clubs until eventually getting their big break. It really annoys me when somebody describes their big break. After gaining some fame, Tommy dies in a plane crash, completely shattering Chris Gaines. Chris, who never had the approval of his father, set out to make a solo record which sold 12 million copies.
And he was in Crash? Like in the story or whatever?
Who, Chris Gaines?
Yeah.
No, his buddy Tommy was in the Crash.
Or no, in the band, Crush.
Yeah. But I guess at this point, is he just Chris Gaines? I don't know. They don't.
Because they were making it sound like the band, something happened to them, and then he made an album solo.
Well, I guess after Tommy died, they probably ended Crush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had to.
Gaines, who never had the approval of his father, set out to make a solo record which sold 12 million copies. That's probably the first absurdity in the whole story. His father eventually dies of cancer, and Gaines...
Not the first. I'm sure there's many
with
more.
His unrequited love for his father eventually spirals into a serious sex addiction.
With his father?
No, this dead father. It's like the worst weekend at Bernie's you've ever seen.
Oh my god. Starring Garth Brooks.
As Chris Gaines.
As the delicious Chris Gaines.
What is that, like, father, incestual,
Oedipus
necrophilic,
Rex. Yeah.
I don't know, corpse fucking?
Patriarchal, or whatever. Yeah.
Well, Craig, dead white men have been fucking me and my people.
Plus, they're usually cis.
For decades, so you don't know about oppression.
That's
my brother
Very
Daniel.
true.
He sometimes comes in here, and
that was Daniel.
Yeah, he's a protester. He's a professional protester.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he does.
Huh?
So
he gets paid to do that.
We haven't talked to him because he's been in South Dakota.
Really?
Yeah, protesting the pipeline. He's a
he's shouting his lungs out.
What was he calling it? Water protector.
Really?
Yeah.
That's just what he's dedicated his life to?
He's great. He's really great. He has all these causes that he believes in.
For a week or two.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff in the world. You can't just...
That's true.
You don't want to get bogged down on one thing and, change too much. But, yeah, Daniel's great. I wish
Daniel's good.
the very best for him. Okay, so Chris Gaines has sex addiction. Gaines then discovers he was getting screwed by his manager in a horrible contract and settles to get it out of it. This is still a backstory.
Of them just in the movie?
While furiously attempting to record another album, Gaines leaves the studio in the early hours of the morning and suffers a horrific car crash.
And changes his name to Garth Brooks.
He has to
How
undergo...
confusing would that be?
He has to go reconstructive face surgery. That is where Garth Brooks comes in as the actor portraying Gaines. What the fuck
so
is
it's a different actor that plays that character at first.
Did Lars Van Trier write that story? Because
really.
it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Does anyone have actual sex on camera? Then it probably is Lars.
Probably not, because isn't he
Or
one of those
Werner Herzog.
devout Christians? Isn't Garth Brooks?
Yeah, that's true. He is. He's a sweet boy.
The plan was to release Chris Gaines' greatest hits 1 year prior to a film called The Lamb.
Why 1 year prior?
Which was also supposed to be the next album in the fictitious rock star's career. In addition to the album, Brooks and company went through a lot of effort to create a fake behind-the-music style doc behind the life of Chris Gaines.
Oh.
Like a lot of effort.
Dude, there is some VH1 behind the music on Chris Gaines.
Yeah?
I saw it on YouTube.
That's probably what this is.
I've watched some of it.
They hired actors to play all the characters in Gaines' life. They also brought in real people like musicians and producers.
Yeah.
Don Was.
Don Was.
Don Was is one of the real people.
Blue and Lonesome.
He actually produced the life of Chris Gaines. And respected, another journalist. They acted out scenes as if they were part of a real doc. The best thing to come from the whole episode, maybe the scene from Tracy Morgan and Chris Gaines.
Really?
Yeah. God, he looks so weird as Chris Gaines.
Didn't know. Wow. Christopher Gaines.
Not only that, but Brooks famously hosted SNL with the musical guest, Chris Gaines. Without
and
even...
Garth hosted?
Yeah.
But Chris Gaines was the musical guest?
Yes.
I think I'm going to be sick.
Without ever actually acknowledging the gimmick, they pulled out all the stops to get the hype machine in full swing.
Really? That's kind of interesting.
The whole experience didn't quite create the buzz they had hoped for. By April 1st, 2000...
I think it did with, like, My Sister, and, like, that's it.
The fans only purchased 700,000 copies.
Ooh.
Can you imagine that? Like, 700,000 copies. Anybody else would think, oh, that's a success, right?
Yeah.
But no, it has to. Everything has to be bigger and better.
Yeah.
You'll get what you like, and you'll be grateful. Okay.
Mr. Alexander.
By today's standards, that sounds like a whole lot, but those numbers were dismally low for Brooks, whose previous album hit 10 million copies sold worldwide. Whoa. That's crazy. Not to mention the label shipped nearly 3 million. I got friends in low places. I love this. Not to mention the label shipped nearly 3 million copies to distributors who eventually began heavily slashing the price of the album. The album did eventually move 2 million units, but it was a tremendous flop. So much, in fact, that Lamb was never filmed. Brooks reportedly wrote the screenplay for The Lamb, which would include
I bet that was great.
Included Chris Gaines' character, but not a focus on him. Instead, it would be about Chris Gaines' fans. What Chris Gaines'
fuck does that mean?
Are those more actors you have to pay to act like people? Okay. So yes, all the work was to create a backstory for a character who was part of the backstory of another character. You follow?
Wow. So it would be a movie about like a few different fans of Chris Gaines.
Yeah.
Like those would be the main characters.
Paramount Pictures are probably planned to release the film.
I didn't know. I want to see it, man. Or no, they filmed it?
No.
Oh, fuck. I want to make it happen. I want to buy the script and like film that.
So, years later, actually recently he came out and said he had no regrets about Chris Gaines, adding that he really liked the songs on the album. He may even do another one. Who knows?
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, because he, like you were saying, they consider that a failure, and I'm sure he did, but he also was like, whatever, that was my experiment. I didn't know if it would work. You know, he was kind of at the fuck it point of his career.
And he still sold 2 million copies.
Eventually sold 2 million. Yeah, that's pretty fucking good. And then went back to selling huge numbers on his tours and albums again for years. So he's fine. He did okay.
You don't think?
He's cool though. I like Garth.
Yeah.
I dig him.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, he's got friends in low places. I do too.